On an alternate Earth, instead of starting a podcast, Dan and Jake decided to take their own brand of justice to the streets as Batman and Robin. This is one of their adventures.
As long as we're out here, chum, this city will know justice.
Wait, what Batman are you going for? You're doing like a half-assed Bale voice. You're calling me chum. And for some reason, your suit has leather nipples on it? Is this a fetish thing, or...?
It's the only one they had in my size. It was this, or I was throwing a cape on a gimp suit.
Oh shit, our first crime.
Whoa, all these bodies are frozen solid. That could only mean one thing.
Mr. Freeze.
Nice to meet you. You shouldn't be out this late. You might catch a cold.
Oh wow, he really does that. And he wasn't joking. We're about to fight our first supervillain.
We got this. You'll be fine.
You're right. Nothing bad has ever happened to a Robin. Not a baseball bat, not a crowbar, not an explosion, not a bullet, and not a sword through the chest.
Chill out with the deep cuts. It's time to kick some ice.
Hey, Freeze. What'd the five fingers say to the face? Slap!
Holy moly, Batman. You just bitch slapped that human snow globe. You know, Freeze, we'd have helped you with your freeze pop. I mean, your wife. If you had asked instead of just killing people for some technology to bring her back. Cool it with that stuff.
Pow!
Bop!
Punching noise.
Well, we beat him, Batman. What do we do with him now?
Whew. I didn't think that far ahead. You wanna throw him in the bay?
Yeah, let's throw him in the bay.
And welcome back to issue 3 of Super Sons. Jake, how the hell are you?
I am pretty great. Just finished up my the first semester of my senior year of college. How about you?
You know, something else monumental happened in my life. Close to what you did, but I saw the Aquaman movie.
That's not all that happened, is it?
No, I came home yesterday and my girlfriend had bought me the Aquaman Trident from Justice League, the Quindent, right? Is that what they call that one? Because it's 6, 5.
Quinn is 5.
Is it 5? Yeah, it's 5. And the actor who plays Black Manta was like, "Hey, what's up, everybody?" So I tweeted him a picture. He retweeted it and said, "You can come at me when you come after you go at Patrick Wilson." Patrick Wilson then replied with, "You're going to need more than a plastic fork to take me down." So, pretty big, monumental time in my life. I think it's too soon because literally the movie opens tomorrow, but I got to see it thanks to Amazon Prime. Thank you, Bezos. You the man. I gotta say, it was so good.
Yeah, Momoa shirtless really gets you going, doesn't he?
Yeah, no, it's actually Willem Dafoe that gets me going. See, you know what this movie got right that Spider-Man got wrong? Spider-Man put the mask on him. There was no mask in this one. He was just terrifying the whole time. Just kidding.
Oh, I hope he doesn't listen.
Man, if Willem Dafoe listens to our podcast, I think he has bigger issues.
Yeah, that's true.
And if so, Will, come on, we'll hang out.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
imagine that. I really, eventually, millions of years later, he's the only one left living on Earth, and he finds it.
Is he a cockroach? Why does he live forever?
He's Willem Dafoe, Dan.
Okay. Is there any other big DC news? Titans wraps tomorrow. I know you don't keep up with the CW shows, but Elseworlds was a pretty solid crossover this year. Like, it was all cool and fun until the end, where they were like, "Hey, guess what? Next year we're doing Crisis on Infinite Earths. What's up, bitches?"
Yeah, after I heard that, I was like, I guess I gotta get caught up on all my CW shows.
Yeah. So I guess they're really going all in for that one?
Yeah.
Let's hope.
They're doing it for the Marv.
Man, I really hope they have, like, the Titans and stuff on it, because that would be rad.
You know what they really need?
What?
A Stan Lee style cameo for Marv Wolfman.
I wonder, has he ever came out in anything?
I don't know. Maybe.
He's the man.
I know he was on this. He once came to the set of the Blade movies, but I'm not sure if that's true or not. I don't remember.
Wait, Marv Wolfman made Blade?
He did.
You know, I just found out he made Black Cat, or he was a co-creator.
Yeah, Marv is real great.
Wow. Well, so today's episode. What would you say the theme of today's episode is, Jake?
Batginnings.
Oh, wow, that was really good. That wasn't even, planned.
It wasn't.
So, we have two stories on today's show. We have Batman, Earth 1, and Batman, A Battle Within and Long Shadows. So,
do you want to start? We should start with Earth 1, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think we should talk a little bit about what Earth 1 is first, just because it's what is this, an imprint? Well, it's a series.
I know it's all supposed to be reimaginings of certain characters in a different way by certain writers.
Yeah, a modern take on all the hero origins.
Yeah.
And most of them have been pretty good. The only one I didn't like was the Wonder Woman, but we can talk about that later. Mm-hmm. And the creative team on this one is the writer, Jeff Johns, who we've spoken about him before.
Pretty good comics.
Yeah, pretty good at comics, maybe. I don't know. An architect. Pencils by Gary Frank, inks by Jonathan Sabal, colors by Brad Anderson, and letters by Rob Lay. Something I did want to go over before we actually got into the stories is what some of those things mean. I think you had a better understanding of what they all meant. The writer, that one's easy, but everything else could use a little more.
Well, sometimes writers can be a little different, because sometimes one writer, when you have multiple writers on a story, one could be just setting up the plot while the other one scripts the actual dialogue.
Yeah, so basically the one comes up with the idea and the other one writes the script. The pencils is all the line work on the page, right?
Well, they do the initial art. They'll do what actually is, you'll see, but then the inks will go over it. They'll do up the lines. They will do all of the black on the page, from what I know.
And the colors will be, as said, all the colors. And I gotta give it to the colorists. Sometimes the colors can make or break a book.
Well, sometimes even an inker can do that too.
Yeah. I just don't think these people get their due.
Yes, they don't. Because, if you look at any picture, sometimes I think people with tattoos would understand what the importance of even lines, consistent lines, That's what an inker does. They have to make sure they're consistent, or they can be actively not consistent with like sharp lines on one side of something, anything.
Yeah, but we just wanted to make sure that people who are new to comics kind of understand that.
If we are wrong about anything, please let us know.
Yeah, berate us, hit us, whatever you got to do to make us understand. So, back to Batman Earth 1. Some of the major characters in this story are people who names are pretty much household at this point because of movies, cartoons, and comics. You got Bruce Wayne. You got Alfred. You got Commissioner Gordon, who's not a commissioner yet. You got Hollywood Hills Harvey Dent. Harvey Dent looks wildly different in this story than how I grew up knowing him.
I think he's just wildly different in general.
Yeah. Then you got Mayor Cobblepot. So the Penguin is the mayor. A new character, actually, called Birthday Boy, who is an assassin that Penguin hires work to. And then Barbara Gordon makes a few cameos in this book as well. So, let's get to that summary. The book opens with one of Bruce's early outings as Batman, and it does not go well at all. His tools malfunction, and a man named Jacob Weaver gets away from him. Bruce does scare a homeless woman, who he tries to give cash to, that was in his utility belt.
Yeah, Batman carries cash.
It tells the story of his parents' death and how he meets Alfred. The death is pretty much the same classic story, but this Alfred is a little bit different. As he comes to him as a friend, was he in the military with Thomas? Or he was...
Yeah, I'm not quite sure. As I was going back through them while I was skimming back through them, I looked at it. I'm like, does it actually say what there was?
Yeah,
but it really doesn't. It just Martha just points out that Alfred saved him.
Yeah, so they were in some sketchy situation. Alfred is pretty much a military man in this. And when the Waynes died, they left him as their not heir. They left him as Bruce's guardian. So he stays on as their quote unquote butler. There is something
that I do remember. Alfred in this story is, well, he's crippled. He only has one actual leg, but he can walk very well with the help of a cane, and he attributes that ability to walk again much to Thomas.
So it cuts back to the modern day where Alfred has returned and asks Bruce if this is his life. Alfred had left him. And Bruce says, yeah, I'm going to find my parents' killer and who put the hit on them, unlike you. It then switches over to Detective Gordon having dinner brought to him by Barbara and him meeting his new partner fresh off his LA TV series. That's Harvey Bullock. It cuts back to Bruce as a kid with the old bat trope with one of the weirder but interesting twists to the age-old story of I will become a bat. It actually goes to it's like samurai armor, which I think he's had a few times. Like we've seen samurai armor in his house, but the fact that that's his inspiration.
Yeah, we've always seen samurai armor, but it's never been like bat themed samurai armor, except in Bat and Ninja.
Yeah, I know nothing about samurais, but I feel like that's more inspiring than a bat flying through your window. Especially because it's legit armor that he does make himself. Like he gets armor.
That is true. I mean, have you seen pictures of bats? They're adorable.
So it talks about how the Waynes and the Arkhams. So in this universe, Martha is an Arkham. And it cuts to a scene where Bruce is looking at the abandoned, is it the Arkham house or they call it the Arkham Asylum?
They don't really address it as either. I know later on in the story, the gates have 2 A's, but they kind of just address it as where they lived. Yeah. The Arkhams lived. And where Bruce's, I think it was her grandmother, killed his grandfather.
Yeah, it's a pretty dark Arkham background. I actually like when Martha is in Arkham. I like that. I think that's a cool story, especially because the Waynes and the Arkhams built Gotham, and that's why it's a nightmare zone. But there's a flashback with him and Jessica Dent looking at the house, but then old Harvey Dent comes and beats him up, doesn't he?
He doesn't really beat him up. Bruce kind of attacks him as Harvey is saying that Bruce can't go near that house because if he does, he'll go crazy.
Yeah,
like his is either his great grandmother or his grandmother. I'm not sure.
The idea is that the Arkhams are crazy, and Bruce is going to go that too. So we flash back to the modern day where Bruce goes to talk to Lucius Fox to fix his bat grapple. He says he needs it for skiing or something. He basically says to Lucius that he can keep his job if he helps him.
And at this point, Lucius isn't like a big wig in the company. He's in like a little supply closet.
No, Lucius working on technology to help the handicapped?
Let me open it back up and see.
Yeah, it's something along the... He's doing some type of humane, like really like a good person thing. So then we get another anecdote where Bruce is at a gala where he meets Mayor Oswald Cobblepot. And then Batman goes after this Jake Weaver guy who's actually at the party. And then they're fighting on the roof, and one of the goons hits him in the back of the head with a brick. And Batman fights his way out of it, but he fights the police and he punches Gordon in the face. The police arrive.
It's one of the best parts.
Yeah. And then he tries to escape, but he's only saved by the modifications that Fox made to his grapple. And Batman literally crashes through the window in like this big splash page. It's beautiful. So we find out the real crime lord behind...
Well, you could say he crashed the party.
Yeah. We find out that Cobblepot is the criminal behind everything. And he's been kidnapping kids from anyone that fucks with him. And he gives them to this birthday boy guy. So this birthday boy is holed up in Arkham, and he like sets up these creepy children's rooms and comes in with...
and he always views them as this one specific girl.
Yeah, and he comes in with the birthday cake, and it's real creepy. And he kills him. So then, as Batman's trying to go back out, him and Alfred get into a fight, and Alfred pretty much says, "Gotcha, bitch." But Batman sweeps his leg and kicks out the prosthetic leg from under him. It's just showing that this Batman is kind of ruthless, which has been taught to him by Alfred to do everything you can to get your means done. Alfred in this story actually tries to get him to carry a gun with him, which Bruce is like, "No, I don't use those." So it actually gives you a darker Alfred, but in the end, kind of saves him. So they go to... Penguin has birthday boy kidnap Barbara. And then Gordon finds that out. The whole time, Gordon has kind of been like with his tail between his legs because Gotham has pretty much broken him and he's afraid that his daughter's going to get killed. So then his biggest fears come to life. So him and his partner, Harvey, go to Arkham.
Well, I think you skipped a little thing because it's Bullock's fault that Barbara gets taken.
Why is that again?
Because Bullock decides that he needs to investigate the Wayne murders. So he goes into the archive and evidence room and requests that they give him the information. But the lady who runs it, she's like, "You're not in the system yet." So he puts in Gordon's name, and that raises a red flag and happens.
Yeah. Penguin has to take care of it. So Bullock, Batman, and Gordon are all in Arkham going after the birthday boy. And doesn't Batman crash through the wall like one of those iconic things to fight birthday boy?
Oh yeah. And after that, they're all fighting him.
So they all fight him together, but Bullock is tossed through the floor where he ends up in what seems like the basement where the remains of all the children are. And that sight just just destroys the man he was. And it actually, the end of the story has him spiraling into alcoholism, which the character is normally. And it's just sad to see someone with such a kind of like a bright attitude for Gotham get destroyed so quickly. Barbara is saved by Batman as he takes down the giant and turns. So then he goes to take down Cobblepot, who he finds out is behind all of this. And he had his parents killed. And they're fighting. And Cobblepot beats him, right?
Yeah, he beats the shit out of him. And he unmasks him.
He unmasks him. And he's got his umbrella blade, puts at Bruce's throat, but then in comes Alfred, who shoots him with a shotgun through the window. It is a visual.
Oh yeah, it's just he's just a half-broken mess on the street.
Yeah. So the story really ends with Gordon kind of having his spirits back while Bullock is broken. You see Barbara drawing up a bat suit. Harvey's at the liquor store. Bruce and Alfred are going back to work on to actually have Batman's crusade against crime work. And then it ends with a stinger of a foreshadowing of the Riddler. So, that was Earth 1. And Jake, I think I enjoyed the story a lot more than you did.
I mean, I enjoy it.
So it literally opens with something you never see in modern comics, which is Batman failing. Like, he literally falls, he like hits a fire escape, he falls to a canopy, and he falls into like trash.
Well, I mean, a lot of the times when they cover his origin or his first outing as Batman, they'll show that, like, him getting wrecked or
right,
at a severe disadvantage.
But as he is now, he's a bat god. Like, he's unstoppable. Until King's
they
Run.
show humble beginnings. It does show the humble beginning here.
Something that I thought was really funny is when Alfred gets to the mansion, he meets their butler. And he's like, "Who are you?" And he's like, "Oh, I'm the butler." And it's like, I think Martha calls Thomas Gotham's Knight, which is just an allusion to Bruce becoming the Dark Knight. A note I wrote is Martha helps the mentally ill. Batman punches them. I honestly think Gotham would have been a lot better with them because they were doing a lot of good things while everyone else is, Gotham.
Yeah, I like how when Alfred becomes Bruce's legal guardian, and Bruce is just like, "What? Who the hell are you?" And Alfred's just like, "I'm your butler." He's not actually his butler. That's not his actual job. It's just the only thing that like Bruce would accept.
Yeah. As I said, I love the Arkham family thing. I think it gives a lot more credence to the name Arkham Asylum, that Batman actually has this real link to it in Gotham because both families built it. I think that is so much better for his character.
Well, I mean, the Arkham thing has always been a pretty important thing to the mythos, whereas our next story does have an Arkham in it.
I really liked Penguin's design in this. I think it was like a solid look. Like, he still has the Penguin look, but he looks human rather than whatever Danny DeVito was or is. Another
Danny
really
DeVito, not human. Got it, Dan.
God, Danny DeVito. God,
he is a god. We don't know what a god he is the god of.
I love
rum hams.
When Bruce is talking to Penguin, he calls him Oswald, and Penguin is like, "It's Mayor." It's like, "Oh, you little bitch."
I also like how Bruce prefers when Harvey introduces himself to Bruce. Bruce is just like, "Yeah, you're kind of a TV star."
A failed one at that.
Yeah, he's like, "They just canceled that, didn't they?" And then Harvey just says, prick.
Penguin is real fucked up in this story. Something I also love in this one is the birds that he keeps. They're not penguins, but they're like small. I don't know what kind.
I think they're canaries.
Yeah, I'm not a bird expert. I don't know anything about bird law.
Yeah, I'm I don't know anything about bird law.
But he keeps them in a cage, and at the end, the cage is open and it flies away. So, I'm big about.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they're canaries.
Big about that thematic shit. Batman uses his cape to suffocate someone, which is always a cool thing to me because it's a practical use for that thing. Otherwise, it's just why do you have a cape? But
well, I mean, Batman actually uses his cape to get around.
Yeah, but then
and because
him using
it's also just a big shield, as we will see in the next story.
When they say, "Who are you?" and he says, "Vengeance." I was like, classic. The umbrella floating down next to Penguin's dead body was lit.
Oh, yeah.
They also say that they're putting Birthday Boy in the Crane Institute. And I was like, hey, I know that name. That's the Scarecrow. That's him.
That is the Scarecrow, Dan. Good job.
The end of the story, Gordon's spirit's back, baby. And then Gordon comes into the station and gives like this big speech about how we're going to clean up the streets and all that stuff. And then he walks out and all the cops are like, who was that?
Yeah. Because before that, he was just the biggest sad sack.
Yeah. Well, yeah, they broke him. They killed his wife, didn't they?
They did. Because he started looking into something he wasn't supposed to.
Gotham City.
Yeah.
All right, so let's get on.
Well, hold on. We didn't talk about the best character in depth.
Harvey
Bullock. Normally, Harvey, sleazeball, sleaziest cop.
Yeah. I think in every media, other than this.
Yeah. Just pure sleaze. Or he's a dirty cop. Well, at least in some of the movies, he's a dirty cop. But in this, he's ultra charming. He's well kept. And he's it's like they could have put any other name on that character and it would have been like, okay. But to put Harvey Bullock's name on that character, just like, holy shit. And when him and Gordon go after Axe with the bat and crowbar, Harvey's just got the biggest smile on his face. Like he's just gonna literally knock the ball out of the park.
Isn't that where they say they're doing bad cop, bad cop?
Yeah.
I love that line.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, how does that go for him? How does all that stuff end up for him?
I mean, him schmoozing his way across everything, it's like, yeah, it seems like he could be a good guy. And then, oh no, he saw the bodies.
Well, I think he's the perfect, I don't want to say POV character, but seeing him come in bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, and then seeing him put through the meat grinder.
He can make a difference.
Yeah, put through the meat grinder that is Gotham City. The soul-crushing hellscape. I think we're going to have to do the second volume of this later, just because I want to remember what happens to him after that. But we have another story to talk about.
We do. We have... It's technically two stories, but they're collected as one. It's A Battle Within and Long Shadows.
And I think this one is more important to you than it would be to me.
I think it's more important to mythos and canon, but I do think the other one is a more cohesive story.
It's a better story. All right, let's do this before we start comparing. Why don't you do the summary? Do you want me to read the creative team?
No, I got it.
All right.
The creative team for this one is, well, these two, is both are written by Judd Wittick pencils for A Battle Within is Ed Beams?
I want to say
Benz, maybe, yeah. And for Long Shadows, it's Mark Bagley. Inks by Rob Hunter with additional inks by Jack Purcell. Colors by Ian Hannon, J.D. Smith, and Pete Pantazis?
Pantazis?
And letters by Jared K. Fletcher.
And who are the major characters?
The major characters in this, Dan, are Dick Grayson as three different identities. You have a little bit of him as Robin, you have a bit of him as Nightwing, and you have a whole lot of him as Batman. And we also have a lot, and I mean a lot, of Alfred Pennyworth. And I'm not talking military one. I'm talking classically trained British actor turned butler.
Best dad.
Alfred. Best dad. We got a little bit of Damian Wayne, the biological son of Bruce Wayne.
Best Robin. We got a whole lot of Two-Face. We got a little bit of Black Mask, who I think you would, if you went back and read it a little more, this run and the subsequent run, you would have liked it because we find out Black Mask is in Arkham. Yeah, I've read some of the rest of this run. Yeah, well, I'll talk about my feelings after this.
Yeah, and we got a little bit of Penguin and a few other villains, but they're not as important to the flow of the story or where Winnick wanted to take the arc.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So, what happens in the story is following Batman Rest in Peace and Final Crisis, which saw the death of Bruce Wayne. Well, not really dead. He got zapped back in time, become a bomb, because comics. And the story of the Battle of the Cowl, which is a big fight between first three Robins at that point. Well, Tim Drake gets fucked in that story, but then never mind. To see who would succeed Bruce in the role, and it showed that Dick Grayson, who was Nightwing at the time, was the only possible choice to fill the shoes left by his mentor. So our story begins with Dick as Robin getting the drop on Batman in the Batcave, which getting a drop on him was something that Bruce had assigned him to do, but he had told him to do it in the streets. But Dick realized he'd never beat him in the street because he knew Bruce would be alert. So he decided to change the rules and go at him in the cave, which succeeds. Then it switches back to the modern with Alfred and looking at the bat suit and the original Robin suit, which was left there by following the death of Jason Todd. And Dick, still Nightwing, crashes through a heavily armed group of bank robbers that are fighting the police in the Batmobile. And then it cuts back to Superman and Wonder Woman giving Nightwing and Robin, then Tim Drake, Bruce's cowl and asking them what they want to do, what he had planned. And they didn't. They were like, what do you mean? And of course, Superman was alluding to, well, is somebody going to take the cowl, or did Bruce not want that? And then out comes Alfred with, of course, refreshments. And they ask him how he's doing, and they specifically ask him, are you all right? And he's like, am I all right? No, my son has just died. Which, it's really sad. And then it cuts back to, long week. Dick and Alfred having a moment just saying to themselves that they weren't ready. And they both cry over it. And then it cuts to the funeral where Dick proclaims to everyone who was there that no one can know that Batman is dead and that Batman lives always. And then again, in the fashion of this story, it cuts back to the modern day where Damian, in his improvised Robin suit, is taking on Dr. Phosphorus, a glowing radioactive skeleton man. Comics. Only to be saved by Nightwing, as Damian is not properly suited up to fight him. Returning to the Batcave, Dick and Alfred decide that if Dick is going to be Batman, he can't do it in the cave. He needs his own place. So underneath the Wayne Foundation building, they have a bunker set up where Dick will start his operations and be his HQ. And then it goes to Dick's first outing as Batman, where Scarecrow is fighting the police, and Dick lands on a spotlight as Batman, and he says that, of course, he's here now. It's all good. And then for several other outings afterwards, he wants everyone to know that Batman is there, so he makes himself as noticeable as possible in every situation, which will eventually come back to bite him in the ass. So Alfred and Dick are talking about the bat suit and how specifically the ultra-heavy Kevlar cape does not help Dick with his fighting style, because Dick is an acrobat, a trapeze artist, so he's much more in the air than Bruce ever was. And it causes a good character moment with Alfred where he just chuckles because he's never had to deal with a neurotic Batman. And Dick just like, sorry. Because they also talk about Dick's other suit as Robin, because Alfred's like, well, you wore a cape as a kid. And Dick's like, yeah, and that was made of nylon and it stopped at my butt. Like, there's just fun, lighthearted moments throughout this story. So then Dick goes to train Damian, who he has chosen to be his Robin. And they spar and they discuss what kind of dynamic duo they will be. The answer is the best one. Elsewhere, we find out that Two-Face is completely obsessed with this new Batman, because in many of the pictures, Batman, well, that's the problem. There's too many pictures of Batman for Two-Face's liking. And in a lot of them, Batman is smiling. So, this leads to other things where Batman decides to crash into an underground gambling circuit, which is apparently monitored by Two-Face, and the smiles ensue, and, well, Dick realizes that there's a possibility somebody's setting him up, but he doesn't know who. Cutting in between that, in the primary story, Black Mask, a new Black Mask comes in, with Penguin at his side. And they talk about Batman and what they're going to do about him. So they send Clayface and a special forces officer named Lyle Blanco to attack Batman while he's trying to save lives in his brand new flying Batmobile using like these foam missiles to stop fires in Gotham. The two really attack Batman, and it's honestly the least interesting part of the story, so I'm not going to talk about it anymore. After that, Batman is alerted to someone who has broken into the now out of use Batcave. So he investigates it, where he is shot with hallucinogenics by Two-Face, and the hallucinations that Batman sees is Two-Face in a red and black bat suit in very Two-Face fashion. And then after getting beaten up by Two-Face, he kind of just realizes, he starts to clear his head, and he realizes he's not in a bat suit at all. He's just wearing bat gloves for some reason.
Just picked them up, no biggie.
He was like, yeah, I don't need a whole suit, but I need me some bat gloves. And he calls Batman a fake. And in the interim of this fight, Alfred shoots Dick with a bunch of adrenaline. And the tables turn as Dick knows the cave so well that he's able to weaponize it, where he uses the giant penny, which was supposed to be off to the side, but was moved by Two-Face, and on one of the sides has a giant X to symbolize Two-Face's own coin. And Dick drops it on him. Well, Two-Face gets out of the way and then gets the shit kicked out of him. Two-Face is arrested, but only after he admits to Dick and himself that he is the real Batman. On his way to the prison, or I guess to Arkham, Two-Face is saved by Black Mask, who takes him in as an underling. While taking apart the Batcave completely, because he realizes how vulnerable it is. In the display case of the Robin suit, there is an opening with a flash drive in it. So he decides to see what's on the flash drive, and what happens is there's information about the death of the Graysons. And, yeah, that's the story.
So I want to follow up with that, with how much I like this story. Let me explain that to you. That is one loudmouth fart out of 5. There is some great character, like,
oh, it's got a lot of great character moments, and it's, for the most part, it's fun. I wouldn't say it's good.
No, not at all. I don't know if I'm spoiled by the recent years of like good Bat stories, but this is the worst of the Dick Grayson run of being Batman. Well, I think it's hard coming from the Batman and Robin by Grant Morrison, which is like peak, like that. Though all of those stories are great, and I think that's where my boy is introduced for the first time, isn't it?
Which one?
Professor Pig?
No, he was actually
666.
introduced in the Batman and Bethlehem story.
Okay, sorry, I don't want to get off topic.
But that was wildly different.
Yeah, so this,
like that version of the pig looked more like Harvey Bullock in Earth One.
Yeah, so this I just didn't like. Especially, is this the first time Dick is in the Bat costume, like on page, other than like the other times he's been Batman?
Are you asking me like other than post Nightfall?
Yeah, like is this the current, like when he became Batman this time? Is this the first time we see that in comics? Like,
yes, because which is because you also see some inconsistencies with the way they're drawing the Batsuit at the time.
Right, because that reveal is trash. Like
where he lands on the
yeah, it looked like trash. I would pick that up and I would throw that in the trash because that's where it belongs. Dick Grayson deserved much better than that.
Where he lands on the spotlight in the last page. That's why I'm here.
Yeah, that just trash. They could have been a million times better, especially because like it's such a big moment after all of this build up post Final Crisis. It fell as flat as Batman did in Earth One. But there is like Alfred in this. Alfred. I think his quote in the beginning is only in retrospective could this be deemed a simpler time, or was Dick talking?
I think it was Alfred. Let me open back up to the page and let me see.
Keep giving you some notes after that. Alfred standing in front of all the glass cases is a really rough thing to see because
Alfred.
He's had to bury children before this, and like, I don't know, it's just like a hard. I love Alfred.
There is one really cool quality of this that doesn't affect the story at all. Mm-hmm. But we were talking about the cover of Earth 1 before we started. Mm-hmm. And I have the hardcover of the Long Shadows where it has a very cool print of Dick as Batman jumping through the Batcave with bullets flying by him. Mm-hmm. As the actual cover of the hardcover and not the paper cover.
Yeah. Alfred gives a grade A monologue. Something that was really cool is when we first see Dick Grayson going through with the Batmobile, he doesn't get out, and he's reluctant to get out and let people know it's him because he still wants people to think Batman is alive, but he's not ready to pull on that.
That is the battle within.
Yeah.
But
White Damian Cape is gross.
Oh, his makeshift Robin suit.
Yeah, that's gross.
The weird diamond hood opening.
Yeah, not a fan. When Wonder Woman and Superman come to the cave and Alfred shows up with their favorite drinks, even though they're coming to give them what's left of someone who's erased.
This is a very good character piece for Dick and Alfred.
Yeah, I think it's more about their relationship.
And it's good for Two-Face. But there's so much going on.
Yeah, it just none of it lands other than the Dick and those three. Something that I liked was Dick comparing the tactics of the myth versus the entertainer. Batman, Bruce was a myth, and Dick is more of an entertainer. It's more of a show to him. Yeah, and the fact that smiling is a dead giveaway to Two-Faces. That's just funny.
Which is to make that even more interesting is because a lot of stories involving Two-Face involve Dick Grayson. Before this storyline, the last time we had seen Two-Face was on the pages of Nightwing. Mm-hmm. Him attacking New York City.
Something that was really cool. I think it's been in other books and things like that. But when they go to hire a specialist, they are looking for a meta specialist. In this case, the teleporter. I just think that's so cool. It's it's like a Craigslist. Where am I going to find this teleporter?
All of the different things that Two-Face is I've tried everything to get in this goddamn place. I've tried magic. I've tried you name it. I've tried it. So
the fact that Dick forgot about the magic barriers on the cave, and that's how he got in because he let them fall, that was really cool. Because I like Dick Grayson a lot.
That makes me question. There's a lot of things you have to question about this, especially because Judd Winnick is pretty well known for another Batman character, but it's a pretty great story, and that's Under the Red Hood.
Yeah. But
this just falls flat.
I like
for the most part.
I like that Dick forgot that because it just shows that he's not Bruce. He's not this prep lord. He's not trying to.
Oh yeah, no. There's a very big difference between. They're both very good strategists and tacticians.
Yeah.
But Dick is a lot of times. The way he thinks and the way he fights are compared to Jazz because he can improvise.
Yeah. And Batman's straight up classical, hits as hard as he can, is always prepared. And that's why I think Dick's run as Batman is incredible with the Morrison stuff, but I just don't think it. Also, what was it? Shadows of
Latonius. What?
Shadow of Gotham. What's that one series? Streets of Gotham?
Streets of Gotham. That's a great one.
Great.
That's a great one. Tony S. Daniels is a pretty good run too, but there are some parts of it that aren't great. But then again, you have to think he was writing it and he was doing the art.
It's got to be rough.
Yeah. But there's a lot of good runs for him as Batman. Like there was all of the stories from when he was in what comic? Detective Comics. DC. The namesake of the company.
I think the thing that makes it most successful with Two-Face is that he was used for the duality of identity, and his suit was just badass. But having Dick Grayson struggle with...
Yeah, the suit was badass, but he turned out only to be wearing gloves.
Yeah, I just think the theme of Two-Face being used for the duality of what Dick Grayson is going through right now, of becoming Nightwing, Batman, and himself, like being able to turn that switch is pretty cool.
Well, yeah, but there's also a lot of deeper meaning behind the Two-Face thing, because as mentioned in the our little skit or our opener, one of the Robins got beaten with a baseball bat, and that was Dick Grayson by Two-Face.
Oh yeah, I didn't mean.
And
I meant
we will cover that. We have that planned to be covered.
Yeah, I mean thematic. Like it's like a metaphor. It's deeper than just like the story they've had. Yeah, because Two-Face. So I saw that you wrote a little review already. You want to give us that?
Yeah. So Earth 1 is a much better story. It's way more cohesive. It's just a really great story. I think Long Shadows is more essential because of the canon, especially with how things are going back now after Rebirth.
Mm-hmm.
But it's essential to understanding Dick Grayson's time as Batman, and it does a lot of good character stuff. And it's a fun read, but there are a lot of problems with it. Like there's even spelling and grammar mistakes.
Yeah. But for me, if you're gonna say like, if someone was like, "Hey, what should I pick up for if I like?"
Earth
and
1.
Dick. Oh no, that's easy. Earth 1 is the essential issue.
If you're going for like a new reader, you hand them Earth 1.
Mm-hmm.
But you also want to preface it by saying this isn't the main universe, but it'll get you to understand.
Yeah, and if you're looking for essential Dick,
this isn't it.
No, this isn't.
This isn't it.
This is not it, Chief. I would go with the Batman and Robin by Morrison, which we will cover. Just because that I think is exactly what the run of Dick as Batman and Robin is. It's like the best. So, the essential story today would be Batman Earth 1.
Mm-hmm.
And I know we both agreed on who the character spotlight should be, who we want to talk about, and that is Alfred motherfucking Pennyworth.
Because he was just so prominent throughout both of these stories that it would be wrong not to.
I don't really want to give it back. I just want to talk about Alfred and how much I love him. I don't think
he's incredible.
I don't think there is a story in any media where I don't like Alfred. Even in Earth 1, where he's kind of a dickhead, I like him. Like, he's still so interesting to me, especially because he stayed. Imagine giving up your entire life for this kid you barely know.
Yeah. There's only one problem I've ever had with Alfred, and I mentioned this to you earlier today. It was the fact that I think it was Batman Endgame, where he gets his hand cut off by the Joker. And then for a while, he just doesn't have a hand.
And then it just comes back.
It just comes back. Is he a lizard? Dan. No, is he Dan, do you think he's the DC equivalent of Kirk Connors?
No, probably not.
No, definitely not.
I think one of my favorite bits of Alfred is in a Neil Gaiman story, Whatever Happened to the Cape Crusader, where Alfred is actually all of Batman's, like, he's created all of Batman's villains to, like, feed this weird thing that Bruce has, and he plays.
Oh, yeah.
And he plays the Joker.
Yeah, that is an interesting story. I thought that was incredibly, like, oh shit. Maybe he's one of the three.
What else? Who's your favorite? Like, out of all the incarnations of Alfred, who's your top? I know it's a hard question.
That is a hard question.
I've got mine.
Anytime where he's just being the best dad.
I was thinking more of, like, which Alfred, like, would you point to as, like if you're Batman, who's your Alfred? Like, what story, what movie, what comic, what game, whatever.
Honestly, I think the Long Shadows one's one of the best ones. Even though the story has its problems, Alfred is just top-notch.
Mm-hmm. I think mine is probably a tie between Jeremy Irons and the animated series Alfred, because the animated series Alfred is the best dad, but he's also kind of a dick. Like, he's witty.
Yeah. Oh, there's also the Batman, the Brave and the Bold Alfred in the ironically a story about Dick Grayson as Batman and Damian as Robin, where it's actually just Alfred journaling. Like, he's just writing down a story of what happens after Bruce is done being Batman. I mean, there's also a different to compare to Batman Earth 1, Alfred. There is a very similar one in Beware the Batman.
I think that one's inspired by Earth 1, right? It came out afterwards. And I think the Gotham one's also inspired by Earth 1 too, because I think he's got a military background.
I don't think this is the first time he's ever had a military background, though.
Right, but in this manner, I think it's, like, the most on page. Because I think he's not MI6. He was a medic or something. But, like, special ops kind of like Alfred is.
Yeah.
Did you know the one in Gotham is played by the third Doctor's son? Just a fun fact.
I didn't know that. I did not know that.
Who's Neat Omen? There was a fantastic Batman annual, I think last week, by Tom Taylor, not by Tom King. It's a quote-unquote Batman story, but
poor Tom Taylor.
Yeah, Tom Taylor's real good at comics.
He is really good at comics, but that the one review that he even shared himself, where it credited Tom King, and he's just like,
yeah, but, like, I will always go out of my way to pick up an Alfred-centric story. And there's not a lot of them, but, like, anytime I'm going out for it.
There was that brand new that one, so
yeah, and it was really good. Aren't they making an Alfred TV show or something like that? Like an Alfred origin story?
I think they are.
Oh man, wait till you see Teen Titans Go to the Movies. There's a great Alfred bit in that too. Yeah,
I do really need to watch that one.
Well, we are 1000% covering that because it is one of the greatest comic book films of all time.
Yeah, and then we're also going to cover with that the probably the lowest moment of the original Teen Titans show.
Yeah, I'm not. See, I didn't like Teen Titans until Go, but we'll talk about that in the episode.
You also didn't like it because it had an anime style.
Yeah, I was not into it.
But now that might be different.
Yeah. All right. So I think that's all we've got for today. Thanks for listening in. You can find us at dcsupersons on Twitter. And if you have any suggestions, anything you'd like to hear changed, any feedback, or any stories you'd like to hear, hit us up there or shoot us an email at dcsupersons@gmail.com. Or find us on Twitter. Yeah, if you can find us and yell at us for a suggestion, that probably is going to get your thing done.
Or just yell at us.
Just
be like, vent all your frustrations at us.
Just like open the front door and start screaming. How are they going to contact us? Just hope for the best.
Yeah, just tweet at them.
All right. Well, next week, I think we're probably going to be covering an Aquaman story or two.
No, we're going to talk about the game. Only the game. Just kidding. We're going to cover that eventually, though.
Oof. Yeah,
because we do own it.
We got to stay topical, so we're going to cover that good Aquaman stories. That's all I've got. So, thanks again for listening in. This is Dan.
This is Jake.
And,
see you next time.
See you next time.